Hey, welcome back to The Necessary Entrepreneur. On this week's episode, we welcome Tomas Keenan from Step It Up Academy. He's an example of technician turned CEO. He began his career as a custom car audio installer, and then he co-founded an industry-leading GPS tracking and dashboard camera installation company, growing it to a significant seven-figure business, and then later moved into the elite coaching space where he finds himself now for industry leaders and business owners. Tomas and I talked on this episode about how he learned a strong work ethic from his uncles in his youth, how he finished up high school, then how he gained experience in the mobile audio space, and how college isn't the best path for everyone. We talk about building a community for the people within your space, being the coach you would hire, and to keep pushing forward and trust the process even when you don't initially see the results. Hey, thanks for tuning in this week. If you like this and maybe love it, give us a like, slam the subscribe button, and share these, and we'll continue bringing great conversations, great people, and great guests. I hope you love this one as much as we did. Thanks for joining us today. So both Tomas and Tomas Keenan, man,
yes, sir.
Welcome to The Necessary Entrepreneur. And the introduction I just gave you, it's just incredible, these things that you're doing in life. And so I sit here and look at you, and I look at your shirt and your book and your coaching and your podcast. We'll wait for the topic of the book for a little minute until one of us drops one of those bombs, one of those curse words or something. I love it, man. But everything about you is about stepping it up now, right? I see it in your coaching. It's reflective in your podcast. So there's probably a branding conversation that we could have that we probably aren't going to get into too deep today as well, but it's connecting all the dots. So what's awesome, man, you have one of these stories about you were an audio installer from an average worker where a lot of us came from to CEO, to seven-figure earner, to coach, to author, podcaster. And so where in the world did this come from, man? If I ask the question, how did it happen, you being this person that comes from an Irish, Puerto Rican background, you've got all the excuses, all the reasons, how did this happen? Or are we sitting here in 2023, the person you are today?
Yeah, great question. I always wanted more. I always knew there was more out there. I just didn't necessarily know how to go get it. And the way you find it is you actually start taking progress steps forward. And you start going down the path. And sometimes you're going to go down the wrong path. Sometimes you're going to have to, course correct. But if you have this mentality of, hey, there's always a better version of XYZ out there. There's always a better version of me out there. And then you have to be willing to put in the work to go figure it the F out.
Where'd that come from, though? Yeah, like did it evolve?
The hard work ethic came from the Puerto Rican side of the family, hands down. I spent a lot of time with my parents divorced when I was 4. Spent a lot of time with my mom. My mom's a real hardworking woman, always has been. She was a single mom, took care of me, did what was required. But at the same point in time, she was a professional. She had a career. She was in sales. And she was in high-level corporate sales for National Car Rental for years. And her being busy with her career, oftentimes was like, hey, I can't watch you. I don't have time to take care of you as much as I want to spend time with you, but I have to go send you with your uncles to go keep you busy. And also you, as a male teenage boy, you get to that age where mom's not too happy with leaving you home alone because God only knows what's going to happen. So I was sent off to work with my uncles, and I had her 2 brothers. One was older than her, one was younger. One was an auto body technician, and the other one had a used car dealership and did, auto repairs and detailing and whatnot. I just spent summers and months and weeks and hours like with these dudes, just learning anything I could that required the use of your hands. And if we weren't in one of the shops working, we were at one of their houses doing some kind of home improvement project or cutting trees down or something, just always busy with something to do. And if you were with those guys, there was no standing around with your hands in your pockets doing nothing. Like, no, you're here, you're going to work. And that was just drilled into me from a young age. And I wasn't scared to work either. Right now, you couple that with, I have a passion for something. Now the work gets easy because you actually enjoy doing it. And I was super fortunate at the young age of 17. I had been working with those guys long enough to realize, okay, I love cars. I love the automotive space. However, I don't want to be a painter or a body tech, and I don't want to be a mechanic. But there's these other cool things that we can do in a car too. And stumbled into it one day, found a kid who was a little bit older than me, had an audio system in his car, and I was like, whoa, you can put music and cars together? I had no idea that was a thing. So figure out and find out this is a thing, and now like it's game on. I'm going out and keep in mind, this is like 1995, 1996. The internet isn't what it is today, right? You can't go and Google, the latest and greatest car stereo. So this is a throwback here. Going into Tower Records as a kid, right? Driving over there, and I would go in every month when they come out. I buy all the car audio magazines, and I just read them cover to cover and learn as much as I could. And that's how I started to train myself in that field. I was 17 and I was not a good student, right? Like me in school, we just didn't get along. I love learning. I'm not a dumb guy by no stretch of the imagination. I just don't do well in a school environment. Okay, cool. I have to take this elective class to get out of high school. And it's technical drawing. I despise it. I hate it. Like this is the worst thing ever. So I pulled the teacher aside one day, and I had no idea what I was doing. And this is it's straight up sales. Right? I had no idea that I was selling this guy on something until years later. I never forget the guy's name, Mr. Gargiulo, short little Italian guy. I said, "Hey, Mr. G, like this ain't working for me." However, I got this thing I'm really into, and at the time, I had mail ordered this study guide from MECP, Mobile Electronics Certified Professionals. And in this study guide, I bought this book because I wanted to learn more about electronics and car stereo and how to put stuff in. In this study guide, in the back of it, it says, hey, you can actually have a librarian or a school librarian proctor this test, and you can submit the test, and you can actually become a certified installer. Oh, cool. So I hand this book to the guy, and I was like, I can't stay in your technical drawing class, but maybe we can work something out here where you help me go through this study guide, and I take this test, and it counts as my final exam for the end of the year, and this gets me out of high school. And the guy looked at it. He flipped through it. He said, give me a couple days. He went and he talked to his bosses and superiors, I guess the principal or whatnot, the head of his department. They gave him the green light on it. And because of that man doing that, like it kicked off my career in the car stereo world.
So where did that confidence come from for you to go to the teacher and say, hey, this isn't working for me? Because a lot of those kids just stay quiet in class and they quietly fail.
Yeah, I have no idea where it came from because I have always typically been the quiet kid. And maybe it was just one of those life-altering moments where I knew I either needed to get up and make something happen, or I was just going to sit there and be average forever.
Do you think that came from maybe your two uncles being more mature and maybe seeing them go through a generation ahead of you? Maybe you just adopted some of that from being around it. I don't know. Was it ingrained in you? Maybe
it probably was ingrained in me, but I'll tell you what, it wasn't conscious. I wasn't consciously doing it. It was probably something that was deeply embedded in the subconscious, and something inside me just said, hey, you got to go do this.
So how important is that moment then to your life? It seems like it all started changing then.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what was the alternative? Either get stuck back in high school and stay there longer in a place that I couldn't stand, or go through and take this technical drawing class that really gets me nowhere in life because I don't need that skill. Right? I'm not going to use it ever again. It's kind of like, calculus for me. I'm never going to use it. And that skill set that I had there, it actually gave me a piece of paper that said, hey, you're an MECP, you're a Mobile Electronics Certified Professional. Cool. I then took that paper 2 weeks out of high school and went to all the local stereo shops. Because this is back in the day when car stereo was at its height. And, in a 1 mile radius, you could have 5 or 6 stores. And I started going into all these
selling the same Alpines and Kenwoods. Yep. And right.
Yep, all of it, right? And I didn't care where I got in as long as I got my foot in the door in the industry. And I finally got into a place.
So I'm jumping way ahead. I'm not trying to go to the end of the podcast. That's what's awesome about these conversations. I don't want to be interviews. I want conversations for us to grow and to learn from each other. So I'm sitting here saying, okay, if it wasn't conscious thought that created that confidence to go and engage with the instructor and with your teacher, if it wasn't conscious, how do we teach this to be conscious thought? Because doesn't it need to be for those that isn't naturally happening? And we can push it off and get into it later, but that's I find those unlock areas and moments that I'm really trying to help people, and they're like, hey, I just don't know. I don't know what or don't know how. And I'm like, well, we got some work to do.
I think the answer is the person has to find their passion. Because if you find your passion and you know it's your passion, you're going to do anything. You're going to move mountains to make it a reality.
But what if your uncles would have been plumbers? Yeah, what if they would have been plumbers or electricians or carpenters, though? That might have been your passion. You might have become passionate about that. You don't think so?
No, because it's one of the reasons I got into the car stereo game is because the car stereo world brings all of those trades into it, right? It's one of the reasons I love that because it took all of your traditional trades, your carpentry, your metal fab, your electronics, your plumbing. It took all of that and rolls it into one trade. Except now, instead of working in a building or a home, I do all this in a high end vehicle.
So let's just say you got lucky. How old were you? Were you 13, 15? How old were you at this moment?
16, 17.
Okay. If it wasn't conscious thought for you then,
Yeah.
and you didn't have a coach the way you're trying to help people assist in living a better life, how do we help people have that conscious thought? Because are you just like one of the lucky guys? So I'll speak to it from a real estate perspective. This wasn't my passion, but I went all in. And then when I went all in and started having a little bit of success, I found passion within it. So it's like, can we take two different perspectives in two different worlds, right? I was sitting in a night class at a local university at 25 years old, and the adjunct professor said, you should be in commission sales. And I'm like, oh, a lot of people have said that before. I'm like, oh, what type of commission sales do you think? He's like, maybe go get a real estate license. I went, oh, maybe I'll go get a real estate license. Right? So it wasn't my passion, but I've gone all in too. And I've found tremendous success. So that maybe that's some angles that can help us. But what about that? And because you have built this business, you're building the coaching business, you've written the book. Can it be done both ways?
Yeah, I think it can. And like the successes that I've had now are because of the path that I did go down. So I pursued my passion, right? Did it for years, did it at a high level for years, had success there, and then got to a point where I said, hey, this really isn't for me anymore. I've almost outgrown it. And there's more to life than just this. So how do I go find that? Right. So like the passion led to what you see now. Because if you asked me 10, 15, 20 years ago, hey, do you ever think you'll write a book? I'd look at you like you had three heads. I'll give you a story. I start getting heavy into the self-development space. I'm 5 years into my second business. I realize that there's potential in the company. I also realize that I don't have the skill set to bring it to life. I'm a great technician. I know how to do the work. I don't know how to build a business. Cool. Go out, start looking for coaches, mentors, the whole 9 yards. Hire this guy. His name is Richard, old dude. He's like, hey, his first meeting with him. If you're going to work with me, you're going to read. I was like, oh, come on. I ain't got time to read. Like I'm in the car, 16-hour days is normal for me between working in the field and driving to and from customers' job sites. It's like, how am I going to read? Right. So he immediately counters that with, go get a damn audiobook, fool. Okay, makes sense. So I start going down this audiobook path, and I love learning, right? So this re-sparks this love of learning for me. Cool. I'm zipping through audiobooks. I got these suckers on 1.2x, 1.5x, ripping through them. And I remember I was still living in New York at the time. I'm backing into my driveway. I had this little Subaru Forester. It was like my work vehicle, backing into the driveway. I'm this big giant guy who's like just, stuck in there, barely fitting. I back into the driveway, and it was the ending credits of this audiobook that I just listened to. And I don't remember what book it was, right? And as I'm backing in, this thought comes over, and it's like, oh, that'd be really cool one day if you were a published author. And I literally smacked the back of my head with my own hand and said, come on, bro. It's a pipe dream. It's never going to happen. Like, you're just this blue-collar dude from Long Island, New York. You're not smart enough. You don't have the skill set. You don't know the right people. Like, this isn't for you, right? All the self-limiting BS talk that we all have dealt with across our lives, right? So back into the driveway. Wouldn't you know, a couple months later, I'm in a networking group. And I'm like, man, that guy over there is an author. Oh, the guy who runs this group, he's got a couple books too. That dude, that girl over there, she's got 2 books. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, probably not the smartest guy in the room, but I can definitely keep up with these people, and they've got books, which means that I can do it too. Okay, so let me start having some conversations. Let me ask some questions. How did you do this? What was the process? Did you hire someone to help you? Because I don't know how to start or what this looks like from start to finish. And they all pointed me in the right direction, connected with a couple different people. I wind up hiring an editor, right? And then 8 months later, after the initial conversation with the editor, there's a finished book, right? So it's funny how life just brings you down these paths and presents opportunities to you, and you have a choice. We always have a choice. You can either take action on the opportunity, or you can dismiss it and say, it's not for me. I'm not good enough.
So what's the title of your book?
And fuck your business.
So that tells me a lot about Mr. Keenan, just the title. But I want you to talk about the evolution of that, because it's a lot about core values. Were those realized? Were they developed? Did you start documenting? Did they automatically just show up, just like the passion for your career? Why are core values? Why do you think they're so important, and where'd they come from for you?
They were drilled down my throat by a coach, and I wasn't ready to listen for the longest time. I worked with this guy for like 3 years. The first 2 years, I just blew it off. I was like, it's a waste of time. By the time I wrote the book, they were dialed in, and we were using them very well at a very high level within the company. And I was a full believer at that point, because I had seen the difference, business A versus business B. So, business without core values implemented and business with it. And I was like, whoa, night and day difference. The core values to me are important for a lot of different reasons, right? Number one, they're the guiding principles that make up your every damn day decisions, right? When you have a choice that is presented to you, an opportunity, an offer, maybe work with a new company, new vendor, hire a new team member, does that person align with the values that we've established for this company? Does this opportunity align with the values we've established for this company? And it goes from a very gray answer to a black and white, real quick, real simple, right? Also, if you ever want to own a business, not a job, you have to implement the core values and train your team on these values. And if your team is making decisions, business decisions without you there, based on or in integrity or in alignment with the values, cool. And you can't be mad at them, even if they make the wrong decision. As long as that value aligns with as long as that decision aligns with the values that you've established, they're good to go. And without that, I mean, you're just a crutch, and everyone's got to go back to you and ask you the same damn questions over and over and over again. Right? That's no way to grow a scale of business. Matter of fact, you become the bottleneck.
Why'd you push back on it for so long with that coach for multiple years?
It's too good to be true. We don't need that. We're better than that. Just dumb BS excuses, right? I don't have time to do that right now. Too many other big problems going on. Meanwhile, if you follow back any of the problems that you have in business, right, 9 times out of 10, it always goes back to a communication issue. Communication to me is core value numero uno, sir, right? And it will be in my personal life, in my business life, forever moving forward, right? If we don't communicate, shit's going to go sideways. Maybe not today, but I guarantee you it's going to happen eventually, right? We were having a lot of trouble hiring, right? And I think, I'll give you my opinion on hiring. How about that? But like you, I've done some cool things in life, had some success in business and whatnot. Doing the work itself was never a challenge for me. The people side of things has always been the challenge, especially hiring. So like getting a business off the ground and making a couple bucks, cool, anybody can do that, right? But when it comes time to actually building a team and hiring and putting in some of those HR functions and features in a company, that's where I think a lot of people struggle. And we did there tremendously as well, especially in a service-based blue-collar style industry, right? Your traditional hiring practices don't always work with those kind of guys. Just, it is what it is, right?
Communication skills are essential. So I agree with you. I don't just try to agree with people. I actually try to disagree at times, right? To have some strong, really good conversation here. But so communication is at the foundation of your core values.
Yeah.
Where did, and I want to get back to this too, man, as you're coaching and you're building your coaching business and, step it up. I want to put together how you found your passion, because I think this is really important. This isn't even pushed back. You found your passion early on, and there's so many of the so-called experts and billionaires in the world, whether it's Richard Branson and these guys stuff, which I think he's doing some really cool stuff. But, and, you know, and like Charlie Munger, you know, him and Warren, they're like, you got to find your passion. If you're doing something you love every day, it's not a job. And it's like, guys, there's been many days. I love what I do now and I'm all in and passionate. But there's many days it felt like a job on the grind, on the bootstrap the way up. And for anybody to sit here and look at an entrepreneur to say you don't have to bootstrap it, it's like, well, give me the definition of bootstrapping, because there's many days, and I guarantee you had these days where you're just facing failure in the face. You're facing whether you're going to exist in the face. Is this worth it? And am I going to keep going? The bad moments on when your core person walks away and you have to find other people. There's moments when it's really hard.
Yeah.
And also, there's times in our businesses that it doesn't feel, you don't feel the passion. And maybe you want to push back on that. Maybe you felt it every day, but how do you lead and coach and really pull people along this path?
Yeah.
Do we all have to find our passion? That's the question, because I think that runs a lot of people maybe away, because there's lots of moments in my life that just doesn't feel passionate.
Yeah. So, story time. I like stories.
Yeah.
Second business was top class installations. We installed GPS tracking and dash cameras, commercial vehicles. Right. Started in 2009. Was there 11 years. Right. A little backstory there. I was never passionate about that business or that industry. However, it took the same skill set that I already had as a car stereo installer and transferred over immediately. It was actually less complex work. And we went from doing big, 3, 4, 5, 6 month custom builds to, hey, let's go to this job site today. We'll do 30 installs and make just as much money. Oh, okay. So we have higher volume here with less skilled work needed. Oh, this is scalable. Oh, I see dollar signs, right? Basically. Cool. See the opportunity. So that's what enticed me, was like, hey man, I got kind of tired of working my ass off, building these crazy cool things for people and like making good money, but not great money. All right, well, here's an opportunity to get into, go from a business to consumer model to a business to business model. And let's dive in there. So I did it, and I saw the potential, saw things happening, made the business grow, had a good sized team, making good money, finally hit the elusive 7-figure mark for the first time. And at the same point in time, like, it didn't light me up. I didn't have passion for it. And I was doing things to grow the business. I was working with a lot of different coaches, mentors at the time. And one of them suggested to me, hey, you need to build a community for the people in your niche. And you have a niche within a niche within a niche. Like, you're in the automotive space, you're in the electronics space within the automotive space. Oh, and by the way, you're in the GPS space in the automotive space. Like, you're layers deep, dude. Cool. I like it. I like niches. So I went out there and I decided, you know what? There's no local community of like-minded people in the GPS tracking install space for all of us to come together and share knowledge, joke around, have a good time, support each other. Hey, I got a big project. I need some help. Who wants to come out here and do some work for a while? There was none of that. Like, no tech support. So I was like, well, let me go build it. It's not going to cost me $1. It's going to cost me a little bit of elbow grease and some skin in my fingers for typing some stuff into Facebook for a couple months. So went out there and fired up this Facebook group called GPS Tracking Installers. Still active to this day. And I figured maybe we'd have 50 people in that group. It's like, dude, there's not many of us in the country who do this. And here we are today. I logged in a day or two ago. We have like 1,200 active members in that group across the country. Cool. It's not a big volume group, but it's still to this day. And that group's been fired up now for probably 6, 7, 8 years, right? That group is still active, and it's still a community where people go in there and help each other, right? And I was able to go in there and facilitate the group, build the group, get it active, add new members, provide value, not looking for anything in return. That's the key right there. And wouldn't you know, I had people starting to reach out to me on the backside saying, hey, you had some success with the install company. What did you do to make that happen? Hey, we're trying to get in the door with XYZ GPS company to become a vendor for theirs. How'd you do that? Do you have a contact for me? Right? Hey, I'm in this situation over here. What do you suggest for this? Hey, I'm looking for a new software to do this over here in my company. What are you guys running again that's making that happen? Well, cool. So people are reaching out to me because what has happened is I've now established myself as the authority within the industry, and people come to me for the basic questions and some of the more advanced questions too. Awesome. I start helping these people. I start answering the questions. I start providing the value. I start doing live streams in that Facebook group and literally opening the playbook of my install company and saying, hey, look at this cool new thing we just rolled out. It's working great for us. Hey, look at this new hotel company that we hooked up with who's getting us discounts on bulk hotel rooms because we're all road warriors and travel all over the country weekly. I go connect with those guys. Right. So all this stuff starts going on. I start making affiliate dollars from all the different software and different companies I'm connecting people to. And now everyone's reaching out to me for help. And I had a good buddy of mine. And by the way, this is super fulfilling at this point. I'm like, it's lighting me up, helping other. I'm not getting much from this. Like a couple of dollars in affiliate sales. Like, trust me, you're not even going out to dinner with that shit.
Did you know when you created the Facebook page, did you take a systematic approach or you were still learning? So now you know it to teach others that people can. You were still learning, weren't you?
A little bit of both. So
Okay.
I learned from a guy who had a really big, successful Facebook group. He gave me the bullet points. Hey, this is what you need to go do. Right. And that's the value of coaching, in my opinion, too. You pay a couple dollars for access to somebody. And if I didn't have that information from him, yeah, could I have figured it out? Sure, I could have. But I definitely got it figured out much faster with his help.
How do we get the Thomases? So you're now in a coaching position. How do we get the Thomases to listen to the Thomas now quicker? Because if you have value as a coach, you're going to be able to cut down their learning curve, cut down their time frame so they can compound greater success in life. How do we do that?
Don't be a bullshit artist. Number one. I like being direct and to the point. If I can't help somebody with something or if I don't know something about it, I'm not going to, say, oh, yeah, well, this is kind of how you do it. No, I'm going to be like, dude, sorry, it's out of my wheelhouse, but let me connect you with someone I know who is an expert over there. I think that's imperative. And I think there's a lot of people in the coaching space that, and it's just being real here, and like this is the space that I'm in. There's a lot of ego, right? There's also, similar to marketing, similar to bookkeeping, there is no barrier of entry. There's nothing that says, oh, you can't be a coach without XYZ proving it, right? There's no, like, anybody could fire up a small business today and say, hey, I'm a coach, I'm a life coach, I'm a whatever. That's scary, and it shouldn't be that way, right? But it's just the reality that we're in. So I think people need to be careful with that when they're looking out for someone who they're looking to bring in behind the scenes to help them as well.
So what makes the Thomas of today? What makes you the coach that should be hired? What makes you the guy that the 25-year-old Thomas would have benefited from being around?
Couple things. The version that you see of me here in front of you today, the version you see of me on social media is the same person I am in person. There's no differentiation for me whatsoever. I don't put on a facade for anyone. I think that's important. And I think it's just being very direct and on. And look, man, me coming from the Northeast, like we're just direct people. I can't stand when people, want to run circles around me or shoot the shit or just, lead me down the wrong path. Like, you got something to say to me, bro, just say it. Like, I'm a big boy. I got thick skin at this point. Trust me, I can handle it. Right? If it's something that's going to help me get better faster, but it might sting at first, cool, just get it over with. And I have the same ability to do that with my clients, but at the same point in time, not be an asshole while doing it.
So you've had to learn it, right? It's a learned skill.
It is learned skill.
What made you a natural born sales killer, man? Because no doubt sitting here talking to you are. Or maybe it evolved. So tell me if I'm taking something away, but it's like there's some ingrained sales skills that you have that are not easily taught.
They're not. I'm fully aware of it now as a grown adult. I wasn't younger. Couple of things. Number one, my mom was in corporate sales. And from a very high level corporate sales. So she worked for National Car Rental, and she was responsible for selling corporate rental packages to other big corporations. So she'd go into like AT&T and say, hey, AT&T, we're selling you all of your rentals for the entire company worldwide for the year. Right? So she was doing high ticket sales. From a very, very young age, some of the things that she started to begin to teach me that have stuck with me, and I'm still a firm believer in today, is how to read body language. And you get good at it, and it becomes second nature, like breathing. Like you pick up on nuances with people that you just wouldn't if you hadn't studied it a little bit.
All right, so if that's so important, what do we do with all these income? What do we do with all these traditional degrees these 2 years and 4 years and 6 years and MBAs because, man, if that's so critical to the person that you are today, that stuff is not being learned and taught there.
It's not. It's not.
So what do we do with it? Are we wasting so much time? What's going on here now in 2023 in society?
School wise, here's my theory of school. I'm not against school whatsoever. Okay, and I'm not someone who went to college, right? I went to a semester and like a third, and then just kind of walked away and focused on my audio career because it wasn't the right thing for me. Mom wasn't happy, by the way, but she understands now, which is the key part. I don't think that school is for everyone. I think school is necessary. I think it is mandatory for certain roles within society. However, I don't think it's necessary for everybody, if that makes sense.
Why do we find so many entrepreneurs leading substantial companies now that don't have traditional college degrees, but people working for them do?
Path of least resistance, right? Like, let's call it what it is. It's funny. I just had a conversation with the CEO of a really big software company right before this call, and he said, people probably don't want to hear this about me. He goes, but I love to cut corners. I was like, makes sense, right? This is my version of actually cutting a corner. So if I don't have to go through your 4-year program to get the paper on the wall that says I will be good in X, Y, and Z things, and I can only go and focus on a couple of classes or the couple of things that I really want to learn. Look at Steve Jobs, for instance. The dude never graduated from school, but he used to go sit in classes at Stanford, and he sat in the classes that he wanted to learn, that he knew would provide value to him and drive his company, Apple, forward.
Nor did Bill Gates, nor did Zuckerberg, it's time after time. And we don't have to just talk about these top level billionaires. You find it at the millionaire level consistently in entrepreneurship too. Not that there aren't successful people with MBAs and PhDs and stuff, but there is, it doesn't fit society's narrative.
Correct.
Right? It just doesn't. And so I don't know why. I wonder what are the things that really benefited you. I'd make some arguments that those 4 years that you could have dedicated from 18 to 22, if we go back to the things that Thomas learned from 18 to 22, and you compound that on the 26-year-old, the 28-year-old, the 30-year-old, you wouldn't be sitting here today with your 4-year degree anywhere near it. Not saying that it couldn't benefit you still, but I don't think you'd be sitting here.
Yeah. That period of time, here's what wound up happening, right? In the mobile electronics field, we integrate aftermarket electronics into a factory electrical system. Okay? Say that again. In the mobile electronics field, we integrate aftermarket electronics into a factory electrical system. It's complex as all hell, especially with today's cars that are coming out and everything's computerized, right? What that did, those 4 years of learning this skill, gave me the critical thinking abilities and skill set needed today, which has propelled my future and my career in ways that I just wouldn't be able to do so without. And it directly correlates to my area of expertise in business as well, which is operations, right? Anybody's read Rocket Fuel Attraction, integrator versus visionary? I'm an integrator through and through with a little bit of visionary tendency. Right? I can integrate like no other. And one of the reasons I can integrate so damn well is because I spent 20-something years doing that in a car. And that skill set directly transfers over to the business world. The difference is, at the end of the day, I don't have a tangible result all the time. So in the shop environment, hey, cool, new car, new BMW 5 Series. Let's get to work on this thing, put a nice audio system in it. End of the day, end of the week, we have this tangible result. We can see it, we can touch it, we can hear it. Awesome, we can feel it. Now, transfer that over to the business realm. And you might work on the startup. You may work on the new project in the business for a month, 3 months, 9 months, 12 months, and you don't have the tangible result. But if you keep pushing forward and you follow the processes, you trust the process itself, you're going to have the results, right? It's a force move versus a power move, right? Force moves have that direct, boom, things hitting you pretty quickly. Where the power moves are, you've got to keep pushing forward even when you don't see the result that you want, just knowing that it is eventually going to come through.
All right, so this term elite coach, for entrepreneurs that refuse to be average. First off, let's establish what average is.
Yeah.
What's average?
Average is equidistant between bad and great. It is accepted. One of the reasons it's so dangerous, in my opinion, it is acceptable by society. It's kind of like if you're in the trades and you're building a home, there is a code you must abide by. The code is just the bare minimum that you have to get to. It's not above and beyond. It's the bare minimum that says, okay, cool, we passed this, you're good to go, close the walls up. I don't want that. I don't want that in my life. I don't want that for my kids. I don't want that for the home I live in. Don't want that for the cars I drive. And several times in my life, I found myself living in that averageness.
How does someone know if they refuse to be average?
Are you willing to do the really uncomfortable shit that's going to piss off and ruffle feathers from probably 99% of the people around you in order to stay true to your values of refusing to be average? Because I know I have multiple times. I'll give you two versions of it. One's really fresh too, by the way, like really fresh, like open wound. 2020, COVID hits. At this point, kind of home, still busy working with the install company. And I start around to 75 hard for the first time. And 3 days into this, I get smacked in the head with a 2x4 reality. It's like, holy shit, I'm living average as all hell right now. I've got an average business. I got average cars in the driveway, got an average ass house, got average relationship with the wife, got average relationship with my kids, got average relationship with the people around me. Like, this ain't cool. And one of my values, and I have this sign hanging over my desk at this point in my home office, says, I refuse to be average. It's one of my core values. I have it hanging on the wall. And I look up and I see this thing and I said, holy shit. I'm the guy who wrote the book. It has a lot to do with core values. And here I am sitting at my home office at my desk in front of my computer, and I have the realization that I'm sitting in average. So I've got two choices. I can either sit here as a fraud and continue to be average, or I can do some really uncomfortable shit and make some changes and get out of this rut of being average. And I decided to go and do the work, right? And what that looked like for me was I had to end an 11-year relationship with a former business partner and say, see you later, I'm done. Sold my house in New York, packed up my wife and my kids, moved to Dallas, Texas, started Step It Up Academy. That led to me being recruited by a big company and being their COO for 2 years and running a really big coaching mastermind program where I learned a ton, and I'm grateful for my time there, right? But if I hadn't stuck to that value, I'd probably still be sitting in the same middle-class house in suburbia New York doing the same thing I was doing, right? So fast forward, the recent version of this started hitting some pain points at home with the family. Not necessarily the kids, but my soon-to-be ex-wife, right? Got to a point where having conversations with her and realizing things, and again, 75 hard, second round to 75 hard I did last year. I started October 9th, finished right before Christmas, and they just clarified things to me. And every time that I've done a full round of 75 hard, it's brought these things to the surface. I've had major epiphanies and like life-altering decisions have come out of it. And this time around, right, because part of that program is you cut alcohol out of your life for the time that you're on it. And that has been probably the biggest blessing for me as an individual, right? Like, I'm not against drinking. I'm not saying I'll never have a drink ever again, but I've stopped drinking since February of last year. And I've done it because I realized that I had some really big life-altering decisions to make. And some of those decisions, some of those conversations, some of those realizations led me and my soon-to-be ex-wife to the realization that we've outgrown each other. And as uncomfortable as it is, if I sit here with you and continue down this path, I'm sitting in average still. And I refuse to do that. So I've ruffled feathers of friends, family members, former business associates, like you name it, I've ruffled feathers in order for me to stay true to that core value. But by doing so, by living in that integrity, I'll tell you what, I sleep really good at night because I know I'm making the right choice for me. And one of the hard things I had to learn over my career is that it's okay to be selfish and put you first. And for so many years, I didn't. But when I started being selfish and taking care of me first, and I'm not just talking like, oh, just take care of yourself financially first. I'm talking you wake up early and you pour time into yourself first. You wake up early and you read first. You wake up early, you go to the gym or listen to a podcast or sit with a cup of coffee and just complete silence in a dark room with you and yourself and your thoughts only. That's being selfish and taking care of you. I started doing that. Everything else in my life started to get better.
So why are all these things worth it? So you touched on the 75 Hard. That's a program. It's really an overall self-improvement program, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is
Yep.
not a diet.
Yeah. It's so you led to some things that I consistently find myself talking about. And it's like, guys, there's multiple stages that we go through in life.
Mm-hmm.
And you have these friends, you have these family members. And I talk about it so often. I'm like, I don't forget where I came from. I just don't want to live there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back and visit. I still care about them. But
Yeah.
that's stagnation. You're okay and you're accepting that for life. And if that's your great life, that's fine. No judgment. Maybe you're actually in a place of more happiness than I am. But I want more. I want different things. And if I want more and different things, I have to surround myself with those people that want more and different things too. And so that's this principle, I think. But you made some decisions here that are really tough, man, that if we're a reflection of the top 3, 4, 5 people around us, you look at their life, you're going to see yours. If you want to change some things, man, you're going to have to change the people around you. And it sounds like you've made some of those really tough decisions.
Yeah, I have. I'll give an exercise here to the listeners, right? Something to help me tremendously. This is not fun. Just forewarning, this is not a fun exercise. If you've got the balls to see this through, though, it's going to change your life. I'll promise you that. Call it the stoplight game. Take out a pen and paper, take out your phone, whatever you want for a writing implement. Write down a list of every single person that is in your life that comes to mind. Friends, family, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, like everyone, right? Kids, just brain dump a list. Next to their name, you're going to either give it a red light, a green light, or a yellow light. And the question you ask yourself when you see the person's name is this. All right, so you see, I don't know, Jesse Paul is a friend of yours, right? When I have interactions with Jesse Paul, are they negative 50% of the time or more, or are they positive 50% of the time or more? Right? If they're negative, Jesse Paul, regardless of the status of friendship, gets a red light. If it's 50% positive, it gets a green light. And if it's in the middle, obviously it gets a yellow. You go down the entire list, right? And this is a quick exercise. You're not really thinking about it much because you're letting your subconscious just give you the answer. The hard part then becomes you intentionally limiting and slowing down and cutting ties or cutting time with those who show up as a red light in your life, because those right there are the energy vampires. Those are the ones that are sucking the life and soul out of you. And the harsh reality is that most of those people are going to be very close family members, very close friends that you possibly grew up with, maybe kids you grew up with and went to high school with and still, hang out with occasionally. But when I learned this and I started taking those actions to separate myself from them, right? This is a good old get rid of the good, make room for the great. It made room and made space for me to free up my thinking, but it also made room and space for some better, higher quality people to come into my life, which has also helped me elevate in many other areas along the way too.
Is it essential that we have those core values, though, established because that's how you're making this decision on green, red, and yellow?
I think part of it,
the core values of your life and how you rank that. So it's like, hey, these are the values of my life. These are things I'm not willing to settle if I don't achieve. When I get up every day, this is my purpose and what I'm doing. And that's how you evaluate red, green. Because so often, maybe the Thomas of 20 years ago, maybe your core values weren't aligned with who they are today. And it was okay for you to spend time with those people.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all the way back in the beginning, when you said you were in New York and you had a decision, I've been saying for many years, I just have to get people to a decision. That's it. Let me just get you to a decision. Let's own us. Let's have self-awareness. Let's have emotional intelligence. And let's just get to a point where you actually know that you're in a control spot of making a decision one way or know what you're dealing with. Be very honest with yourself. Be transparent and just decide.
Yeah.
So often it's tough to get people there to know that they have a decision to make. In coaching, it's my words, not yours. How do we get people to a spot where they need to make a decision?
From a sales perspective or from the coaching perspective?
I think from about decisions in your life. About, hey, am I going to do these tough things? I'm in a place of average, and I see now. So you have to get them to own average so they can make a decision if they're willing to take it to the next level to be extraordinary.
Yeah.
How do we put people in a spot where they're truly, honestly willing to make a decision? Like, nope, I'm not willing to do it. I'm going to stay here. And that's fine if that's the decision to make for their life. But actually, for you to go to the next level, I think you have to be honest about where you're at and then make a decision to consciously do these things.
Yeah, it's a couple of things. It's a couple of things we do, right? Like out of the gate with our clients, first things, we're going to make sure you have core values implemented. And if you don't, cool, we're going to work on that. And we have a pretty quick way of getting it done at this point. We've done it so many times. We're going to do a time study with you, right? We're going to figure out where you're spending your time, what's important to you, what's not. We're also going to figure out your WPH, your worth per hour. Right, that's a KPI that we're going to establish, and we're going to get you that number like real quickly. Like call one, you're getting this done right now in front of us. When you have that information, that gives me a really good understanding of what you're about and what you're trying to accomplish. Then moving forward, it's from a coaching perspective, right? This is where people screw up coaching and consulting, in my opinion. Right, as a consultant, I'm going to tell you what needs to be done. Hey, we need to implement this in order to make this happen. As a coach, I'm going to ask you questions that are going to make you determine the correct answer to the question yourself that fits you best. I'm going to make you think, and I'm going to train you how to think so you can take this moving forward even when I'm no longer your coach.
What's your opinion, not from to touch on the religious point, because a lot of people use this for their, but what's your opinion of free will?
Free will. Give me some more context.
So free will is, do we believe that we have the ability daily, momentarily, in all these micro thousands of decisions, do we have the free will? Because there's some physicists, some psychologists, some of these huge guys that you see all over the podcast with Lex Freeman and all these guys, and they're having debates at a high level. And there's some of them that actually believe that we don't have free will, that we actually don't have the ability, and there's context behind it. I know what I believe around it now. It's not a simple yes or no, but I'm wondering, like daily, could Thomas and Mark today make decisions on this day in 2023 to go alter and change and deviate and create new habits? Do we have this daily free will?
Yes, I think we do. I'm definitely a bit a weirdo on that side, probably. I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual.
Yeah.
Right. I believe.
I don't think it has to be a religious thing. I don't think it has to be.
I think if we set intention, I think if we do some funny stuff like manifestation and really put intentions to things and start taking the right steps to make things happen, that we are way more powerful than we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah, you said that you couldn't, if you asked the Thomas of 20 years ago, if you would write a book and become an author, you'd be like, what are you talking about? So how does that happen? How does that manifest? How's the evolution? Would you go back and do it different now? Would you cut 10 years off of the growth pattern? Or is it just okay how it's evolved?
I'm right. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. That's how I look at it. You know, I've hit my struggles in life, right? I've definitely, gotten my ass kicked a couple of times in this thing called life and business, as we all have. And that's one of those things that I really truly believe makes you a better person, better business owner, better leader, better father, whatever, better husband, whatever you want to call it, right? You have to go through some of the rough stuff. And it kind of it adds a little bit of grit to you, but it's also necessary. Like if you meet somebody who says, oh, I'm perfect, I've never failed the business, bro, don't even talk to me. Just go away because I'm telling you right now, you're a bullshit artist, right? You probably got 4 cents in your bank account.
So you don't like small talk. So Tomas Keenan doesn't like small talk.
I'm okay with a little bit of it, but my it's a very short fuse I have. Yeah, the threshold is very small for the small talk for sure.
Does that make you tough to be around?
No, it doesn't. People often look at me like, dude, I've been a big guy my whole life. Like I'm 6'4", 270 pounds, 275 pounds, right? And like I usually
and intimidating. You're an intimidating person.
I'm a big guy. Like it is what it is. But I typically have a face on, and if you search my social media, you'll probably find it. You probably find my friends throwing comments and stuff on there. It's called RTF. They call it resting Thomas face, right? I have this look of almost no expression on my face, and everyone thinks I'm an angry asshole, which is the furthest thing from the truth, right? And I've come into a lot of situations or met people in the past who are like, hey, I saw you standing over on the at that event over in the corner. I'm like, I was intimidated. I didn't want to come over and talk to you. I thought you were gonna rip my head off or something. I'm like, no, come talk to me, people, please. Like I'm really a gentle giant, and I want to have communication and talk to people. I'm really not that bad or angry. So
So you're misunderstood a ton. Entrepreneurs and really successful people, man, that start to crush and evolve, they're significantly misunderstood.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you
That's a
deal
really
with
good
that, man?
assessment.
It takes an emotional toll, doesn't it, at times?
It does. It does. It's definitely caused strife with family. It's definitely caused strife with family. I'll even say my mom, right? Um, when you start to achieve things on a professional level and do some cool things in life, have some achievements and meet some people and just have good experiences. Also, you start taking care of yourself, like I have, because I went through a season in my life where I was 315 pounds and not a good 315 pounds. Let's put it that way, right?
Sloppy and not good.
Yeah, like real sloppy and soft, like real squishy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You start changing that. You start having success in the business world, and 75 Hard had a lot to do with this and dialing it in for me. What wound up happening was it boosted my confidence exponentially, and those people who haven't been through it and haven't done the work, the average folk, the outside folk who once knew you, the 20-year-old version of you, now look at you as if you're cocky, and they mistake the cockiness for confidence. But those who have actually gone through and done the work and been through it recognize confidence for confidence. It's just my perspective on it.
Assessment. Have you ever come across someone that has achieved more than you? Let's just take this moment right now.
Mm-hmm.
And in these environments and other entrepreneurs in the coaching space you're in, have you ever come across someone that's achieved more than you, that's been a naysayer, that's been negative, that says don't chase your dreams? Does that ever happen with people who have achieved more?
Never. Not once.
So
ever.
then what do we do there? So what do we do with the folks that then show up and they bring that type of energy? What do you do with them?
Couple things. Is it worth keeping them in the circle? Right? And this goes back to the red light game, the stoplight game. This goes back to core values. It's one of the reasons we're so damn picky at Step It Up Academy with the clients that we allow into the inner circle to come work with us, whether it's in group coaching, one-to-one coaching, or whatever we're doing, on-site assessments. Right? We have an application process that we're putting everyone through. Like, I don't care who you are, who's introducing you. I'm not going to work with everyone. That's one of the biggest mistakes that I made early on, even in the first company I owned, which is the car stereo business. It's like every person that walked through the door, oh, that's my customer. That's my customer. Just come take whatever you want. Cool, I got you. We'll figure it out.
We
That's
thought we were living in
worst
rural
thing to
scarcity,
do.
didn't we? Yeah. We were just grinding for every buck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were scared to turn something away. We didn't understand maybe an elite level and different things. It is, you have to learn that, right? It's an evolution.
You do.
Yeah.
Yep.
The so Step It Up. Why'd you name it Step It Up Academy?
I think it has a lot to do with growth. Right, we always want to step it up. We want to get to the next level of things. And that's just been my personality. Going back to the earlier conversations, like I always knew there was more, but how do we get there, right? And I was racking my brain to come up with a name for this company, and Step It Up was it hit it. A couple things aligned. The domain was available. It hit. And I sent out and had a couple of logos done by some dudes on Fiverr to just give me some general ideas. And this dude came back with the logo that you see here today. And I was like, oh, that's it. It's a shield. It's like this big protective shield, can help people at the same point in time. It's this path. It allows them to grow and evolve, not just their business, but also themselves as a person, as an individual. Like, let's roll. I'm all for it.
All right. So I want to ask a question that I assume I'm going to know the answer, but I'm going to ask it because I want to know. Provide some context. So there's a guy that started out in the real estate space. His name's Brian Buffini. A lot of people have heard about him. He's not just in real estate anymore. He's a big-time coach and ultra successful. He has a podcast called It's a Good Life. He's done that. He's transitioning out of just real estate, but out of coaching. He seems to be just a high-quality guy. I've seen him in some events and stuff, but I don't know him personally. But he was personally mentored by Jim Rohn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who Tony Robbins was mentored by too. And I think he's one of if you go out on Instagram, I mean, the guy is just, from a philosophical standpoint, just brilliant on a lot of, you got to work more on ourselves and work on our jobs and about the seasons. And he recently had a 29-minute podcast that's short for Buffini. And he said the things that I learned and how I was impacted from Jim Rohn. And he said, but at the end, I'm also going to share some things that you guys might not know. And he said Jim Rohn privately shared with him towards the end of his life. He said he had a bunch of failed marriages, wasn't even the best businessman. That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, if I knew the price, I wouldn't have paid the cost.
Mm.
Jim Rohn said that.
Yep.
All the time on the road, all the going all in on business, how it affected his marriages.
Mm-hmm.
And me and you are sitting here having this conversation about growing, stepping it up, becoming the best form of ourselves. Is the price going to be worth the cost?
Yes. One of the things that I'm proactive with, right, and this is changing now in the season of my life, due to me just about to finalize a divorce with my soon-to-be ex. But I've always made it a priority to spend good time with my kids. I'm a dad of 3 kids, right, and they didn't ask to come into this world. That was a decision that me and the missus made many years ago, right? Coming from uh, a household where my parents divorced when I was 4 years old, and my dad wasn't there much, right? So for me, it's been super important to show up and be present for my 3 kids. And one of the things going through this past couple of months and season of this separation, this divorce that I'm going through, is like, hey, how do I do this? How do I be as good as a human as I possibly can be in a shitty situation? How do I continue to show up for my kids? And how do I, through all of this, because we know it's going to make some ripples, right? How do I leave the least amount of wake behind for everyone involved? Right. And that's been a lot of the questions that I've been racking my brain on. And, like anything else, I said, hey, when I ran into a situation like this in the business world, I'd go hire a coach. Okay, cool. So what do I do here now? So I went and hired some people to help me through this stuff as well. People who've been through it, people have experience with it. And just to get that third party perspective that's unemotionally attached to your issues has been a game changer. I don't care if you're talking about your life, your personal issues, or you're talking about your business issues. That is so important and so imperative from so many different perspectives. It's not even funny.
All right. So this book, Unfuck Your Business.
Yep.
Core values are important. What else?
I'll give you the story. Hire the editor, right? And we're going through the book, and this is my theory. This is my theory as a dad having kids. This is my theory with the book as well. And my theory, I'll give you the dad version first. The theory was, okay, me and the wife, cool. We know one's coming, right? We got several months planning for this human to pop into the world. For the first couple months, let's do some brainstorming, and we'll come up with 3 names, right? And we're not going to choose. The day that baby's born and we hold it for the first time, we'll know what the name is, right? Worked great, all 3 kids. It also worked really well for my book, okay? So we had the book. It was written. It was just about to go into publishing and get the final copies of this book and read through it and check it out. And I had a couple ideas of what I was thinking of, and my editor comes to me and says, I've got the name, but you have to have a set of brass balls to use it. I was like, let's see it. So she hands it over to me, and she was a closer, flat out closer. She goes, one of her other clients I know very well. She goes, if you don't take this title, I'm going to offer it to so-and-so. And me being the competitive me saying, oh, no, I got first dibs on this. Like, now I have to take it on. And I did, and it fits. It fits me. It fits my personality. It fits the context in the story and the information that's shared in the book as well. And it's been a challenge from a marketing perspective to get the book out. But at the same point in time, it just fits, and I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the choice.
What do you think about regrets?
I think we all have them. But at the same point in time, you can't dwell on it. I mean, you're not going back in time. You're not going to fix the shit. So, pack your crap up and start marching forward and get the next best thing done, right? Like here's my thing, right? Here's how I take on anything negative or bad that happens in life. Because listen, at some point in time, whether it's today, tomorrow, 3 months, 7 months from now, we're going to go into some kind of tailspin in an emotional state, right? Maybe it's depression. Maybe you just feel off. It happens to everybody, right? Something bad happens to you or happens for you. Depends how you want to look at it. My theory on that is I give myself a 3-day grace period. So some shit goes sideways in life or business, cool. You can sit and pout and say, oh, woe is me. You got 3 days. After 3 days is up, you better get your ass off the couch, put on your big boy pants, and move forward. And if not, then like, what are you doing?
Did you ever leave anything unsaid in life?
Oh,
What'd you leave unsaid that you wish you would have said?
A lot of unsaid in my marriage that probably should have been said 15, 16, 17 years ago. And I'm not disappointed with my marriage. Like we had a really good relationship for several years, but going back and looking back hindsight, I should have been better with the communication. And she could have been as well. Like we definitely both, it's funny, we sat down last night and had a conversation about it. We definitely both could have done better on the communication aspect of things.
Kudos for you guys doing that, man. Me knowing how important you let off with it about communication, how important it is to be able to do that in something that is so emotional. It is. It just is. And to be able to sit down and have that conversation, kudos, man. It means you've both come to a place where it's like, hey, it's unfortunate.
It is. You know, here's my theory on it. This is the woman I opted to spend 20 years of my life with, 14 married. This is the woman that I chose to be the mother of my kids, right? This is the woman that I did life with for all of these years, had some amazing, fantastic experiences, some of them not so amazing. We grew apart. Okay. I still love this woman to this day, right? I will care for her, the mother of my children, until my last day on this earth. We are just not meant to be with each other any longer. And we've both come to that realization. So, okay, let's make the absolute best of the situation that we have. You're still the mom to my kids. I'm still the dad to the kids. We have to co-parent here and communicate well because we're going to still be a partnership when it comes to raising these three amazing humans. So if we're going to sit here and bicker and fight and go through all the BS and trust me, it almost went that way. It's just not worth it. Like again, going back to me, hiring pretty much coaches to help me through this process was how do we
without that you would have been screwed, right?
Yeah, because who knows what I would have done? What kind of dumb stuff are you going to say in the heat of the moment that could potentially take this really pivotal time in a relationship and burn it to the ground, and that's not good moving forward.
And there's some things that are said you can't take back.
Mm-hmm.
There just are. And there's some things, if they go deep enough, they're not going to be forgiven because you're not in control of who forgives you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very valid.
Yeah, man. So what do you think your business, your coaching business, tell me the evolution of this as we go. I mean, we're fourth quarter now.
Yeah.
Which fourth quarter, what I know being in business,
mm-hmm.
Your second quarter of 24, man. The things happening now, you might be able to go find a sale or two, but you're not going to change your outcome today based on today.
Yeah.
At least that's the things I believe. Yeah. You're starting to change what first quarter and really what second and third quarter next year look at. What's your coaching business going to look like? What are you excited about? Even though a great laid plan never happens the way it's supposed to. We know that too.
Yeah.
What are you excited about as we go into 24?
Getting back to business. I'm really excited for that. So courtesy of my personal situation at home, right, I've pulled back from the company quite a bit since probably called April of last year, maybe even February. I mean, I've still been in there, still coaching my clients, showing up and providing value and doing a thing. But I've had to focus so much time on taking care of matters at home that I haven't been able to put my full effort into the growth of the company, right? So we've been in a stagnant space right now. Like we got money coming in every month. We got happy clients. We're providing the value, cool. But there hasn't been growth on the projected path that we had put together for the year of 2023. Here in a week and a half or so, we finalized the close of our home here in North Dallas, which allows us to put a lot of things to rest, almost finalize that whole ordeal over there, which allows me to focus and put a lot more time back into the company, which I'm excited for. Because right now, being in business, this is planning time for 2024, right? This is where we sit down, we put that map together and we say, all right, this is where we're at. This is what we're going to make reality come next year. And that to me is exciting. And I've also got the team behind me that's willing to show up and help me make it a reality.
So tell us as we wrap this up, tell us about Texas. So I personally, about 2 years ago, I have some connections in the Metroplex. And I met a couple guys in Fort Worth and hung out with Dallas, but I drove to Waco, went to Austin, drove to San Antonio, went to Houston because I said, all right, if this state's really happening, let me go see. Is it time for Pivot Real Estate to go to Texas? Is it time for us to do that? So I drove the whole state over 6 days, and I was impressed, man. I was shocked. Everywhere I turned, it's like, man, there's cranes, there's skyscrapers. Tell me what's happening in Texas, and is it really going to be a game changer for your business? Is there something happening down there organically?
Yeah, this is the state of Texas. Listen, coming from New York, especially, right? The state of Texas is a very business-friendly environment, business-friendly state. They want you to succeed. They want you to set up shop down here and do stuff. Cool. In my area in North Dallas, there's a lot of small business, but there's also a lot of big business in town as well, right? There's a really good crossover there. Like you said, cranes and building construction is everywhere. Since we moved here 3 years ago, I can't even begin to tell you the amount of buildings and homes that have been put up. Listen, being in the real estate space, you get this, but my home value rose over $300,000 in a 3-year period.
It's wild,
right? Like that's wild. It's wild.
Yep.
Right. And a lot of that has to do with, it's a nice upcoming high end area, but at the same point in time, from where I am north to pretty much Oklahoma is pretty much wide open, and they're starting to build further and further north at this point. Right. So you've got really big business in town. So for instance, if anyone here is into golf, the PGA World Headquarters just opened in Frisco, Texas. And attached to it is a Omni Resorts hotel, and it is an amazing facility, right? Universal Studios just signed a contract, and they're going to be building a theme park here, like 300 and something acre theme park on the Prosper Frisco border, which is 5 minutes or so from where I live, right? Toyota is down here for their U.S. based headquarters. You've got defense contractors.
They moved from Northern Kentucky, where we're at.
Yep. So, I mean, the amount of big businesses down here, the amount of small business down here, the amount of people who are into bettering themselves and wanting more was just really refreshing. And I spent 3 years prior to moving here. I spent 3 years coming down here once a month. I was part of a mastermind that was down here, the mastermind that I wound up becoming the COO of. I spent the first Friday of every month, I would fly down here and spend 2 or 3 days. So over that course of a 3-year period, I really got to understand this area. I got to see it and explore it more as a local native than as someone who was just a visitor, right? Go to the restaurants that aren't, the chains and the normal places that the travelers go to. Go experience things that, you normally wouldn't. And I just saw the writing on the wall, and I said, this area is growing and I want to be a part of it. And I'm glad that I did.
So once you start making decisions, you made that decision in New York to leave that business partner of 11 years. You moved to Texas. All it takes is 1 or 2 decisions in the right direction, doesn't it? And then the momentum starts to build, and they just start to compound, and they take care of each other, and you start moving in the right direction. Maybe those first 1 or 2 are the tough ones to make, right?
They are, and I have a theory on it too. That and this has been good for me. It's also been a little troublesome too. So just forewarning. My personality type is when I make a decision, like I've made my decision, you're not going to change my mind. So what happens is, cool, I made this decision. And if I'm having a conversation with you, Mark, it's like, Mark, you got 2 choices here right now, pal. Option 1, you can hop on the bus with me and we can do this together and go along happily and make cool things happen. Or you can get run the fuck over. What's your choice? Right, and that's just, I'm not saying that's necessarily the right thing to always do, but that's just been my mentality and the way that I've operated. And if I know something deep down intrinsically is lighting me up in it, I know internally that it's the right decision. I don't care what someone has to tell me, I'm going to move forward with it.
Is that part of this selfishness coming out where you're like, I know what I need to achieve 1,000%. And I'm going to go do it?
Yeah. 1,000%.
All right, man, we've gone a little bit over here and stuff, but give me your take. I appreciate you spending the time with us, and we'll put your website stuff up and everything too. But is it best just to go to isn't TomasKeenan.com?
Connectwiththomas.com. That one links out to everything I got. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a Linktree style page that I built. Yeah.
All right, so give us the parting shot here for October of 23. We've talked about a lot. I mean, if we've said it, we've said it. But I'm assuming, and you're stepping up coaching, there's a lot more than this.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Basically, we want people to come in. We want to help elevate them in all areas of life and business. Can I tell you a secret about what we do in the coaching space?
If you're giving us free secrets, let's go.
Okay. And it's just how I operate. I like just telling it how it is. A lot of people come in to work with us, and we wind up helping them on the personal side of the house, more so than the business side of the house. Yet I can't market the business that way. Because if I said to you, Mark, hey, Mark, come in and work with us for the next 6 months, 8 months, a year, whatever it is, and we're going to help fine tune and turn you into a better person. You're going to be like, hell, you are. I'm perfect. I don't need help. However, my business could use some help. So the marketing angle that we have to go through is, hey, you need help in your business. We need help dialing your operations. You need core values. You need systems. You need processes. You need a hiring system. You need an onboarding process. Well, let's help you dial all that stuff in, right? You need to build a sales team. Cool. We'll help you dial all that stuff in. That's an easy sale because most people are willing, even hard charging entrepreneurs are willing to say, yeah, my business isn't perfect. I can use some help there. But the second you point the problem to them as the individual, they all get defensive. Whoa, 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 pal, I'm good. And I'll tell you what, I would say 98 or 99% of every client that we have that comes through the door, we start on the business side of things. We help you there. But the harsh reality is this. I could help dial in and build any business process you want. If I don't elevate you, the individual, to a level that is capable of operating that system, it's not going to do you any good whatsoever. So it is my responsibility to not help elevate just your company, but also help elevate you, the individual.
I think you're spot on, man. I think if we go back to the 12 principles of leadership from one of the massive experts out there, right? He said, you can't lead and coach people if your number isn't above theirs in all these categories, man. And it probably goes back to what Jim Rohn talks about too. You got to work more on yourself than you do on your job.
Yep.
I think you're spot on, man. And I think it's not comfortable until humans can get comfortable with truly having a self-evaluation, being really self-aware. That's a hot topic, but really being self-aware and digging down, like, really, who am I? What are my leadership skills? What are the communication skills, right? What's my level of intelligence? What's my mindset? How positive versus negative? How growth versus fixed? So I think you're spot on, man. And if you can get the right people to coach them and open up to developing the personal side of their lives, yeah, I think it's going to unlock their life. And it's probably the process that you've gone through, man. You see so many athletic coaches. It seems like a lot of the great ones played the game. Yeah, maybe Belichick didn't and stuff, but he's one of the rare few. Most of the people that are great coaches were there. So thanks for the time, man. I appreciate it. I think I like reading books. I find myself wanting to execute more on the books I've read in the past, though, because it's like, man, at some point you got to stop reading. Yeah. You know? But I don't know if my grandma would let me leave it on her nightstand, but
my mom doesn't leave it out either. Don't worry.
Maybe you can like cross it out and put a different word. Yeah. I don't know. I'll think about it for mom. Thanks, dude. I appreciate you, man. This journey that you're on, I respect it a ton.
Thank you.
That you're out here sharing what this is like to go through these moments in life and be able to make these hard decisions and giving people a path and coaching them through it. I think if you need coaches, I think other people need you to be their coach, and it continues down the line. So,
yep, I agree.
Kudos to the rest of us. Successful 2024. That book, do we have to go to your website, or can we find it on Amazon and all the places?
Yeah, you can go to the website and grab it. If not, you can head over to Amazon and grab it as well. Just type in my name, Tomas Keenan, Thomas with no H. It's really Tomas. You do that, and you're guaranteed to find it.
Same thing for your podcast, man. I saw you're 198 episodes in.
Yeah, we're about to hit number 200, which is, listen, you know the game in the podcast space. Most people don't make it past 7 episodes. So
100 significant.
Yeah, 100.
What are you guys gonna do at 200? What's the big celebration, man?
I don't know yet. I got like 9 or 10 episodes in the bank. I need to go figure out which one is actually going to be the 200th, and I got to do some promos on it too because we're 2 weeks out from it at this point. I launch every Wednesday, so we're getting close to it. I got to get out there, start doing some promos, and let the world know that we're hitting the 200th episode. Which like I said, that's a feat in the podcast. No,
it's no joke, man. Yeah, if you've got the strength and you have the guts and the confidence and the commitment to get to 200, there's some other things you're doing in your life that are moving forward. So, appreciate you, man.
Likewise, this has been
have
great.
Have an awesome rest of October. Fourth quarter's here, so I'm ready to follow you and see what the next book is. Maybe we need to have a contest on what's the name of his next book.
I'll tell you what, it won't have a 4-letter word in it.
All right, man. Okay. All right, it's gonna be awesome. I appreciate you again, brother. Thank you. And maybe
Likewise.
people come out here and follow you, and I look forward to engaging here going forward.
Thanks.
All right, man.